Navy SEALs, other special forces kind of stuff. Real killers, you know?
Like you.
Yeah, baby.
Because a lot of people say that AP is like a one-trick pony, right? Because they only do, or mostly do, the Royal Oak. That's why the 1159 came to existence, sadly.
What does salmon go with? Nothing. What does Tiffany Blue go with?
Nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
Good point.
Unless you're like in Miami or something, I guess, but whatever.
Well, that's the least of your problems then.
Welcome to Plus or Minus, the Horological Debate Show about the best and worst of the watch industry. I'm Thomas Hendricks, and you are?
Balazs Ferenczi.
What do you got on today? Little
black t-shirt.
Yeah. I do that. Yeah.
And a black. I mean a watch on a matching black strap.
Which is?
Which is a vintage King Seiko high beat, straight out of Japan.
King Seiko, baby.
Yeah, King Seiko, baby. On a vintage King Seiko buckle.
There we go.
Yeah.
Proud of you.
Nothing fancy. What about you?
Benrus Type 1.
Good. Military.
Beater. Yeah.
Love it.
Matches, matches the whole vibe.
Love it.
Question number one, gonna ask you.
Sure.
Most underrated Rolex. And you can't say none of them, even though that is a viable answer.
So I think it's not that underrated anymore, but it used to be the Explorer 2.
Okay.
I think the Explorer 2, like especially the older generations.
Yeah. Those early 2000s ones, or the Tritium models?
Exactly. Like I think those were...
The 5 digits, I guess?
So those were like really, back then, they were like super, I wouldn't say cheap, but they were very affordable.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Up until like a year ago.
Yeah. Now it's a different price range.
Barely. If
If you see Rolex in the wild, do you see a lot of Explorer 2s? Because I don't.
Not really, no.
Right. And I guess, but then if you go on Chrono and any watch forum, sales, whatever, you see quite a lot of them for sale.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's because people get rid of them. I think they're absolutely brilliant watches. I don't know why I don't see them. Maybe people who have like that, they also have like a sub or something, and they would much rather choose the sub than that one.
I think that's what it is. This is very unscientific, but I think people might start off with an Explorer 2 because it's more affordable, and then they get the sub, or then they get the GMT, and maybe they offload it, which is why you see them. Or it's just like in the watch bots, but it's not in that top three.
Every time they're like it, but I'm gonna go with that one.
Yeah, it's this is another sub kind of day. Well, maybe we'll wear the Explorer 2 this weekend, kind of thing.
So that's my pick. And dial color wise, I think the white is nicer than the black one.
Yeah.
So it's probably the black, I would say.
Mm-hmm. The white is getting more attention, especially the cream colored ones can go for quite a bit of money. Or because you get like the cream with like that patina on the hour marker, so you get like a cream on cream kind of thing, but there are different kinds of cream, and that depends watch to watch, and that like affects a lot of the value as well, versus just black is like a little bit more standard, let's say.
I agree.
There's less excitement to it, but it's a great watch, and you get the functionality of a GMT. I like the bezel, it's a Fitz bezel, but I think
steel bezel.
It's a good looking watch. I know a lot of people, it kind of rubs the wrong way. I don't like the new Explorer 2.
No, they're too big, too bulky for me.
Yeah, exactly. It's a 42, and the GMT hand, or whatever you want to call it, spelunking hand, is a little too much, if we're being exact.
So what's yours?
It was going to be that. Good thing I got a backup answer for you.
Yeah, it was.
I was going to say it's
minds think alike.
I was going to say Explorer. I mean, there's not a lot of options for underrated Rolex. Let's be honest. Since you said Explorer 2, I'm going to go vintage, and I'm going to go a little more broad, which is just really anything 34 millimeter. So thinking like oysters, mainly non-dates. Some of the best dials you'll find for Rolex, especially vintage Rolex, I think are in a 34 millimeter size. There's a lot of character. There's a lot of options out there. I mean, there's not one reference I'm saying right now because there's just so many, like especially 4-digit kind of ones.
So below 34, or just 34.
34.
So like bubble back, for example.
34, yeah, great. Yeah. Or even, there's some like 50s, 60s, 70s kind of ones. You need to do a little bit more research as far as originality, as far as condition, as far as like, making sure all the individual parts match up and things like that. But if, you buy from a good source who does this stuff every day, then it's easy. That worry is taken care of it. 34 is a really good size. It looks better than a lot of people give it credit for, I would say, especially for Rolex, because, it's an all steel kind of thing, so it makes it look maybe a little bit bigger. But as far as underrated goes, the value is there, the design is there, obviously the build quality is there, but the price isn't there. So I think that's a good recipe as far as underrated goes.
True. Okay. next. I agree. Well, this is a fitting question to you,
Yeah?
given your attire. Best military watch.
Yeah? I'm gonna go, this guy right here. A lot of options out there as far as military ones. I'm excited to hear what you say.
Yes.
This is the one that I chose, and I'm not really like a military vintage guy despite the jacket that I'm wearing for this video. But as far as watches go, military watches go, this is the one that I chose. One, the price is amazing. It was like under 2,000, brand new. I love the brand. Benris is just a nice American brand that you don't see a whole lot. I have a vintage jumping hour, but I wanted to go for more bread and butter for them, what they're known for. Prices for the vintage ones of these are like way up there, like 13,000 or something like that, and they're beautiful. As far as I'll get into the practical side of it, but as far as like the historical understanding that I have, this watch came out, was commissioned by the US government at the point when they were like, okay, we can't give every single soldier a watch, so it's only going to Navy SEALs, other special forces kind of stuff, CIA operatives, like real top brass kind of stuff, real killers, you know?
Like you.
Yeah, baby. It's more than enough to, withstand my daily life. What I love about it is just, it's one of the best design vintage watches out there. It's super minimal, sterile dial, so no brand name on it. It's got a similar kind of Submariner dial, which, as we've said before, has stood the test of time. You have a bi-directional rotating bezel, which is friction-based, so there's no like clicking or anything, which I think is kind of nice.
For a reason, I guess.
Yeah. And yeah, for like stealth reasons, I guess. Yeah. But it's like you can use it as a dive timer. You can use it as a GMT bezel as well. It's this asymmetrical case shape, which I think is really cool. It's like 300 meters water resistant, super tough. It wears pretty well. I'm not a big watch guy. This is technically 42 and a half and like up to 16 millimeters, but with the way the case is shaped with that kind of, with the huge crown guards, with the super dome, the big curvature of the case, it wears a lot smaller. Lume is pretty good. Movement in this one is like serviceable. It's like, just kind of a bare bones thing. But from historical perspective, capability perspective, how it fits into my life as a decidedly non-military kind of person.
I'm torn between like three. One would be the Hamilton khaki field mechanical, and it also has like a brushed case.
Yeah, great watch.
That's a cool, like a field watch. So I think that's cool. The new one is not necessarily military, but of course it's based on one. I also like the British Air Force chronographs, which is a similar, not similar case, but it's also asymmetric case, kind of the size where the pushers are a bit, wider than the other side. So they had like Hamilton and I think even CWC and Presta and all those brands.
Yeah.
Like a Valjoux 7733 inside.
So you're going primarily chronograph?
Well, the Hamilton wasn't, this is, but then I think
What's your real answer?
my all-time favorite has to be the Angelus 215 Hungarian Air Force LE.
Okay.
With the marking on the back. Like that's like such a classy piece. It was a small Air Force, so you don't really see too many of them.
Close to home for you as well as
close to home for me.
Hungarian.
Yeah, of course, close to home. But it's also, I think there are two vintage chronographs in the 60s and 50s and 60s. And one is the Zenith, the Excelsior Park powered Zenith for the Yugoslavian army or military, which is quite a collector's favorite, in this circle. And the other one is the Angelus, the LE, because then both of them are large, like 38 millimeter steel case, super simple dial, 2 sub dials at 3 at 9, hand wound, pump pusher, just your quintessential
pure and simple
vintage chronograph goodness, with the added value, if it's value, of them being connected to the Air Force or I think in the Yugoslavian watch it's more like a military thing. I'm not exactly sure. This is a classy piece, so that's my answer. 60s, late 50s, early 60s, Angelus 215 LE, Hungarian Air Force chronograph.
I love how specific you got.
Long answer, sorry.
Let me ask you this. Why don't you tell the camera what the best precious metal is for a watch?
Platinum.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next question.
Why?
Okay. Sorry.
Would you like to elaborate?
No. I love
the most noble metal.
I love a platinum watch.
Yeah?
It's just something about the weight that's just nuts. Like you see this watch, it's steel, right? And it's, I don't know, 180 grams. You see the same model and it's white gold and it's, I don't know, 280, I don't know what's the difference. And you see the third watch, it's the same watch and it's platinum and it's so heavy. It's just, the steel just feels like a toy next to it.
Do you like a heavy watch?
I've never had a platinum watch, sadly, so I can't say yes, but I think I could get used to it. The problem is that if you wear a platinum watch,
and then you get used to it.
Exactly, then you get used to it and you have to go back to the steel. Like, I don't know, I don't like that.
You could have one platinum and one titanium and just
and then
cover all your
done.
bases there.
Yeah, I think platinum, and it's also because platinum is like silver color, the same color as steel, so it doesn't really stand out. So
yeah, it's a very bright steel.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like rose gold or yellow gold or even.
It's more of a connoisseur, if you know, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I really like. I've had the chance to try certain platinum watches on, and I've had the Speedmaster once. It was like a platinum Speedmaster platinum bracelet, and it's like almost like a half a kilo.
Yeah,
it's insane. And then you get like a normal Speedmaster, which looks exactly the same, minus the diamonds and stuff. And it's like, so to me, it's just fascinating how heavy platinum is. And I don't know if that adds to this allure of, wow, platinum, but to me, it's platinum.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's, I would say, the go-to answer for a lot of people. A lot of people work up to a platinum watch.
Oh, white gold. You could even say white gold.
Yeah, fair. But most people would put, and I would put platinum above white gold.
Absolutely.
I would like it for a dress watch, for example, like a platinum Calatrava or something like that, or a platinum like Cartier. A lot of like the CP collection, I think, is platinum. I would never wear like a platinum Daytona. That's like just too much weight, and I don't necessarily think that weight equals quality. But I get where you and other people are coming from with that.
So what's yours?
Yellow gold, baby. The material of kings. There's a time and a place for everything.
Mm-hmm. What's the time and the place for yellow gold?
Anytime, any place, baby. Okay. For me. I mean, gold is classic, and it's only fallen out of favor recently, I would say. But as far as dress watches, I think there's nothing better. If you look at tanks, if you look at Calatravas, for example, like yellow gold is the standard. Longas, for example, they have their honey gold as well.
Yes.
So you get variations in there as far as like what shade you really want to hit.
Yes.
I'm not a rose gold guy, I'm not a pink gold guy, but yellow gold, very classic. Even like if you look at a day date, for example, I would love to have just a solid gold day date at some point.
Yeah.
For more like reserve, like with more reserved outfits, let's say.
The bracelet,
whatever.
black dial.
Yeah, for sure.
Like
Onyx would be amazing.
Watch from the 80s.
I like a drug dealer watch, I'll say that.
BMW Cabrio with the BBS rims.
Yeah, or I would do like the Piaget Polo, the full gold one, that's a real drug dealer watch.
And the Sergio Tacchini sweatpants.
Yeah, I understand why people have reservations about gold or why they don't like gold, but I think it's fun. I think it like brightens your mood a little bit. You get the weight as well. Like I tried on a King Midas in Paris a couple weeks ago. That was amazing.
Humble brag.
A really cool. I tried it on, not mine. It was lapis dial though. That was cool. It's just a fun way to walk into a room, okay? And it's classic. It adds some weight to dress your pieces, and it's intrinsically a special metal, much like platinum.
Yeah.
There's just more, a little more emotion tied into it, I would say.
Good answer. I'm not really a gold guy. For some reason, I personally think that gold doesn't look good on me. So that's why I'm leaning, towards like white gold or platinum. But I do have some gold watches, and I like it.
Let's go negative, huh? Worst dial color. What's the one that you say, not today, mister?
I have to say Tiffany, and all those shades of Tiffany, because I don't think it's a bad color.
Don't call it Tiffany, but what we're really trying to do,
I think it's a cool color. It was very, it was a very smart way for Tiffany to kind of put their name or their logo on everything without putting their name or logo on it. So when you saw that color, it's Tiffany.
It's immediately recognizable. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I like it, but it's been too much. Please stop making those baby blue / green dials and call them Tiffany, because they are not.
It's a very loud color too.
It is. So I don't know if I've seen a lot of purple watches. I'd love to see some purple dials. Because lately I've been on this
yeah.
purple kick, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, but no, the purple never hurt nobody. But maybe it's ugly, I don't know. Because the watch industry, you see a lot of black, a lot of white, blue, green, the usual colors. Purple, not so much. Like olive green, not so much. Like this one.
Well, green was huge a couple years ago, and then it kind of went away.
That's true, yeah. Especially with like bronze watches, bronze cases.
Exactly. I mean, for good reason.
For a good reason, yes. But Tiffany, and as I said, not the Tiffany, like the official one, but all these other brands and micro brands and trying to, well, it's not a Tiffany, but we have you would have not had this color 5 years ago.
I mean, that's pretty obvious, yeah.
Yeah. So
but even the Tiffany, like the Nautilus is like, that's my least favorite dial color for a Nautilus. I would go green, I think is my favorite.
It's a loud one, as you said, it's a loud color. So that's it's a no-go.
Okay.
What about you?
Never loved a salmon dial. Haven't seen a single
good
one.
Good one. It's a good one.
Haven't seen a single one. And it's another one where it's so specific, and yet you have to pay much more of a premium to get a salmon dial whatever or a Tiffany dial whatever. I just don't get it, and I don't like the color itself. I think in certain lights you're like, yeah, okay. With certain metals you're like, yeah, okay. I've never understood the hype for it. And if you think about anything besides watches, would you have a salmon-colored car? Would you wear a salmon-colored suit? Would you paint a room in your house salmon color? No, it's like it's just intrinsically not.
Yeah.
It's just a little ugly. So that's my answer. Sorry to the like Patek 1518 heads out there, or whatever, or any like micro brand that's like doing salmon dials. It's just not for me. Like sometimes in certain lights, yes, but then the other 98% of the time, it's just like, it looks a little rotten. I don't know.
I think also we sometimes try to dress maybe, or pick the watch to our attire, or try to dress, to the watch. And there's like absolutely nothing, in my opinion, that
what does salmon go with? Nothing. What does Tiffany Blue go with?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Unless you're like in Miami or something, I guess, but whatever.
Well, that's the least of your problems then. Okay, Thomas. Best Royal Oak.
Ooh, I would say the dual time is my favorite Royal Oak. It is one that I would also say it's one of the more underappreciated ones, which I think contributes to my answer. I love the asymmetricality of the dial. I like the functionality of it, and I like that you never really see them.
That's a good answer. My answer, however, may be boring, but I'm a vintage guy, so I go with the original.
Okay.
The very, very first one. That's how it started, Maybe it's...
Jumbo?
Yeah. I think it's always interesting to see when you look at a model line and where it is now and where it started. Like that was the first watch, not necessarily the first model, but the first series or the second series of
that's
models.
where it all began.
How it all began and how it went to the offshore and all the precious metals, the complications, and because a lot of people say that AP is like a one-trick pony, right? Because they only do or mostly do the Royal Oak. That's why the 1159 came to existence. Sadly, and it is kind of true. Yes, they use that design DNA. I mean, but still, I think that it's a very strong DNA, and that DNA to me is connected to the very, very.
Still looks good, yeah.
Still looks good.
Okay,
yeah.
So you're going back to where it all began.
Absolutely. First one.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. And next one, best dive watch. Loaded question, potentially. Or a lot of people with a lot of opinions.
Best dive watch.
For context, you have said that the Rolex Submariner is the worst one, so...
Yes, because nobody's diving with it. That's why a dive watch is supposed to be underwater a lot, and nobody dives with a Rolex. That's
which
why.
Is more...
So it talks more about the people and not the watch itself.
But what's,
Yeah.
To get the people back on your side, maybe what's the best one?
I lost them forever. The Rolex boys are gone from my camp. I would say probably Doxa Sub 300.
Okay.
The,
I thought you might have gone Omega on this one, but why Doxa?
No. I would say.
Well,
I like the Seamasters as well, and 300 and what. So I'm talking right now about the modern one, but which basically is a re-edition of a vintage model.
Yeah.
So the Sub 300, the case and everything. I think it's just first of all, the price is amazing for what you're getting. The size is great. I have a larger wrist, you have a smaller wrist, and
it's big though, right?
But you can wear it because it's thin.
Is it?
Yeah, it's thin. The 300 is thin. The 300 T is not, but the 300 is thin.
Okay, because I don't have a lot of hands-on experience, and it looks like a hockey puck to me. It looks like
No, the sub 300 is a thin watch. I think it's very easy to wear. You can put it on a bracelet. You can put it on a rubber strap. It has dome crystal, kind of this vintage, vibe that I quite like. But it's a modern piece. Of course, if you get the vintage one, it's even better. But you don't want to dive with that. It has a huge following, like a cult of
yes,
fans,
and more so all the time.
Yes, the Clive Cussler books obviously helped, but the history helped. The fact that the watch was a good watch, it worked. It was the first one with an orange dial.
Yeah.
67. So when it came out, I think it's best is a bit of a subjective thing, right? What is best, but to me, is one of the best is definitely the Doxa Sub 300, vintage or the modern version.
Okay, and they've had success with the modern ones as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And now you can. It's a good point. Now you can choose that with like different dial, like a bunch of dial colors. They have these different cases, like the forged carbon or the ceramic. I think the ceramic is kind of an in between a sub 300 and the 300T. So yeah, it's really a lot to choose from. A lot of versions to choose from, a lot of colors.
A lot of good colors.
Good. Well, there are good colors and there are not so good colors.
I like that there are colors. Let me just put it
there. Are, yeah. And the forged carbon is amazing as well.
Yeah. They have a Tiffany one too. A turquoise one.
Aquamarine.
Aquamarine. Okay. I'm going to go for mine. Blancpain 50 Fathoms.
Swatch. Oh, I thought.
No, not the Swatch version. As far as like objectively speaking, I'd probably say Submariner as far as best dive watch throughout all of time. But what I am most attracted to, if money were no object and I had to get a diver, I would go vintage Blancpain 50 Fathoms. I think the design is just beautiful, which a lot of divers are not. I mean, that's realistically not at the top of their priority list.
True.
Is just the cool factor, the design of it. But I think that's, especially the ones with the moisture indicator, are super cool. I remember when I was like first kind of getting into the industry, I went to a Sotheby's Phillips preview. They had one there, and that was like, to this day, that's the only watch I remember seeing from that one. And
that's iconic.
They age really, really well. Yeah, it's iconic. Design is great. I'm glad that it's getting more attention now. The modern 50 Fathoms are not my cup of tea. The Swatch collaboration is fine, but the vintage ones, amazing. Best for me, I would say so.
Yeah, iconic. So, we talked about the Tiffany and the worst dial color.
Just ask me the damn question.
Best dial color.
Black. And I'll be a little bit boring for that. Black or white. I'm very classical. I'm more of the camp to have a neutral dial and then change the strap when you want to. Especially with quick change stuff, quick release spring bars, it's super easy. I wouldn't necessarily sink a lot of money into like an orange dial or a yellow or a Tiffany dial when I could just change the strap up. I like neutrality. I think there's like a lot of colors that get popular that are a little bit hard to pair with everything else just in day-to-day kind of life. Salmon dial, let's say. So I'm a classic black. I think it's obviously the go-to for sport watches. And I love a dress watch that kind of goes to the dark side. You talked about like the Darth Longa 1. You talked about some...
First reversal was 1931, had a black dial.
Yeah, exactly. There's some Patek Calatravas that have black dials that are amazing. There's some, like a tank with a black dial is always really cool. I would say most of my collection is either mostly white, but yeah, I would go black. Mother of Pearl is like also a favorite of mine, but that's more depends on the watch. I would say like a Mother of Pearl like Longa 1, but that's too specific to say like best dial color.
Yeah, so black for me as well, but I cannot give the same answer as you did.
Nope.
So I also say that I really like dark blue. I have a lot of dark blue, like my Grand Seiko. When I was on the market for the Grand Seiko and the Ming, I was looking at the Ming, which is also blue, and I ended up buying the blue Grand Seiko and then the purple Ming.
The burgundy Ming, yeah.
The burgundy Ming, yeah, right? So dark blue is really a color that I think looks really, really good on watches because it's, especially if it's like super dark, right? Because like, for example, so the Grand Seiko is so dark blue that it's almost black from certain angles. But when the sun or the light hits it, then you can see that it's beautiful.
In light versus shadow.
Yeah. So I would say like a dark blue dial is always a good option. Maybe not on every model. So maybe not good on a diver, or maybe not on a dress watch, or even on a chronograph. It could look good. No, a dark blue.
Yeah, it's a little overused in my opinion. Like
yes, for sure.
The blue dial integrated bracelet mania
Absolutely.
of whatever 2019, where it's like every single company had to make that sort of thing. So I'm a little bit over it, and it's a little bit, even as someone who said black, it's like blue is like a little bit too standard for me, I guess. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's personal taste. We're getting mad about colors. Best non-Rolex GMT. I know you have a 1675.
Yes.
So that would be a
Rolex
go-to answer, and a deserved one at that. But if you think about other brands on the market, I don't want to put words into your mouth. What comes to mind?
So I need to think about this. So you go first.
Okay, I'll go first.
I'll come back.
A brand that we nor a lot of people talk about very much is Bell & Ross.
Mm-hmm.
They have a GMT. They have a square one, which I would not endorse. But the round one is actually like a really good looking watch. Movement-wise, I'm not exactly sure. I haven't done a whole lot of research as far as what's going on under the hood. But case-wise, dial-wise, hand-wise, numeral-wise, I think it's just a really good-looking GMT. And there are a lot of like okay-ish looking GMTs out there. I would go round, Bell & Ross. It's black dial with these kind of like big like Panerai style numerals on there. Sharp like arrowhead GMT hand. And they have a date window, black on black, circle just kind of floating in there at like 4:30, which is very beautiful and like only noticeable if you know where to look.
Cool. So I have one.
Yeah? Did I buy you enough time?
Not a Bell & Ross, something much better than that. It's not difficult. So mine, I wanted to go with first there's an Omega Seamaster 300M with a GMT function.
Okay.
That I quite like.
Yeah.
You know, it's like from the maybe late 90s or early 2000s, I'm not quite sure.
Well, they have a newer Seamaster with like maybe it's a world timer or something.
Yeah, they have the world timer for sure. But then the one I picked is actually one of the coolest like multi-purpose tool watches of the 70s, and that is the Omega Flightmaster Caliber 910.
Yeah, a GMT, but also much more.
Much more. It's like the Apple Watch of the 70s.
Yeah, a lot of apps on there.
So a lot of apps. So first of all, it's a chronograph. It's a manual wind. Basically, the movement, the Caliber 910 is based on the 860. So practically a Speedmaster movement.
Sure.
Whatever.
But there's a lot of layers to that movement because they've added on.
Absolutely.
So many functions.
Absolutely. So it's a manual wind. It's a chronograph. So you have a crown on the right, a pusher at 2, a pusher at 4, and then 2 more crowns on the left.
Yeah.
And so this is the 910, which is the first version where the case is thinner, the profile is much thinner.
Because it's a big case.
Yeah, it gets, and especially the later ones are much bigger. But this is a thin case and the domed crystal, right? And then you have the 2 crowns on the right, on the left side, I mean. One controls the rotating inner bezel, so that's another feature, and the other one controls the red GMT hand. Yeah. So that's
like that like airplane hand too, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it's obviously made for pilots, and it's a 24-hour indicator as well on it. So it's it's just stuffed with goodies, including the GMT.
Damn, that's a good answer. I love the case shape, although it's like chunky, as we've established. A lot of color on there. The dials age very well. Like some of the best like tropical dials on the market, I would say, are Flightmasters. It'd be a cool one to bring back, I think.
So they did in the quartz versions, but that's not the real thing. But yeah, as you said, a lot of colors: the green, the 24-hour indicator, gray, black, yellow, red, blue.
Aren't the pushers like color coded as well?
Yes, exactly. So mine are gone already. They eventually just kind of flake off. But even a GMT hand is blue, and it's like a very specifically shaped hand. And that's a cool GMT. Best Rolex GMT bezel.
So we have the Pepsi, the Coke, the Batman, the Lunette Noir, the Sprite, and the Root Beer.
Yes. I know you for a while now. But you would go probably root beer.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, it feels so good to be known.
Professional.
And loved, maybe. I would go root beer. I'm thinking about potentially in the future, maybe getting a two-tone 1675 with a black dial. I like how the black kind of like evens out the two-tone where it's like
gold. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just gold versus steel.
Yeah.
But just bezel-wise, especially vintage models, I don't care for the new root beer, the modern root beer. Vintage root beer, absolutely amazing, and they get better with age.
Yeah, the modern root beer just kind of lost all the
It's like
this
copper
pizzazz
tone.
yeah, I agree.
So I like the brown and the gold. It fades beautifully, especially like the ghosted root beers, let's say. It's more versatile than people give it credit for. I think some people think it's a little bit polarizing. You're like hard to pull off, but I would say the opposite.
No, I agree. I think it's easy to pull off.
Yeah, I mean it's essentially two neutrals. It's like a gold and a brown.
It's a pop. It's also going to be like a pop of color on your, on your.
Yeah, and it's not as recognizable as some other GMT bezels, let's say. So I would go I like the old aluminum bezels, and I would go root beer.
Yeah, so I go Pepsi, but vintage Pepsi. I don't like the new one too much.
Yeah, you're not a ceramic Pepsi kind of
not
guy?
really. It's too shiny. So I like the vintage, and I like the vintage ones that they kind of faded, like mine. The reason I told this many times, the reason I bought the GMT is because when I was kind of just getting into watches and Rolex in general, I found the GMT many years ago, right? And I was like, this is really cool. If I ever had the money to buy a Rolex, it would be a vintage watch, probably the 1675. It would be a GMT Pepsi.
Great
because
choice.
just I like the red and the blue, as just like you said, working with the black dial, with the steel case, with the Jubilee bracelet, or you can change it on an Oyster bracelet. So I was in love with the color combo of red and blue. And sometimes I go on like Chrono and stuff, and I just look for vintage GMTs just to see the fadings, because they're amazing. And I'm not talking about the doctored fadings and the
Put it under a sun lamp.
or the bath and whatever.
The ones that have lived a good life.
Exactly. So I love those. And sometimes the red that kind of turns into this purple.
Well, the magenta I think was factory, I think.
I don't know.
So
maybe, but so I like those. I like the fadings. I don't know. It's like a used pair of like Red Wings. It's like you can clean them up and you still have character.
Yeah, you got to put some miles on it for it to like really become who it's
or like a
meant to be.
Remova. It's also a good example. Like a brand new Remova versus one that like you've seen it. It's been through everything. So yeah, Pepsi. Well, we are on the same page, kind of same era, same decade even.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a watch that needs to travel around to really bring on a lot of character. Vintage Rolex is obviously full of charm.
Absolutely.
And then, the bicolor bezels, I think, are really, really fun, especially for a GMT. That's kind of why you get it.
Yeah.
Balazs Ferenczi, Thomas Hendricks. Thanks for watching Plus or Minus, the Horological Debate Show about the best and worst of the watch world. We'll see you next time.